What's up, my people? I be Douglas here, and you're welcome to another lovely Saturday of the week. Um, we're actually growing, guys. It's amazing. I mean, close to 120 something subscribers and over 5K views. And this never would have been possible without God's grace and also you guys being able to support the channel, share the videos, watch it, and all that, and get your feedbacks. And I'm truly, truly grateful. Thank you so much. So today's breakdown session is very special. Um, being done by request. I said, okay, I'm going to show you guys how I was able to achieve this birthday poster design I did for my brother late last year. Yeah, so before we get to it, if you are new to this channel, you are highly welcome. Do well to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll be among the first people to receive an update when a new video drops. And you can also catch up with the previous poster design breakdown videos I've done in the description below, where you could see the poster design breakdown playlist. All right, so without wasting much of your time, let's get to it. So I'm going to turn off my second artboard and we're going to start with this one. Yeah, so this design was inspired by, I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. I'll always give you guys the scope from which I create my designs. So any inspiration I get, I always share it to you. And if I know the designer, I always recommend you also follow the designer. I mean, who no one follow, who no road. All right, so this design was inspired by this one, right? You could actually see some similar elements and positionings, and it was done by a very, very great and awesome designer, which I'm sure some of you guys may already know. Goes by the name Nana Multimillionaire, also known as Nana Multimedia. Is a very, very great friend of mine. Call him my boss. He is the one I usually go to for design inspirations, like back to back. So do well to check out his page on Instagram at Nana Multimillionaire. He's an exceptional designer. We call him the abstract designer. So yeah, inspired by this design, and let's get to the full gist of the matter. All right, so I'm going to turn off my artboards and we're going to start from scratch. Okay. Good. All right, so like I always say, my background colors are always inspired by the colors of the images, or I pick my background colors from the images itself, or I find colors complementing the background, or I find colors complementing that image. So that's how I always do it. So the reason why you're going to see black, it's definitely because of the image itself. And then I added this pattern. Yes, so this pattern, I think I downloaded it from Pinterest. Yeah, I think I downloaded this pattern from Pinterest. If I remove the hue and saturation, I didn't convert this to black and white. Yeah, it's actually a transparent background. If I remove this black stuff, yeah, this is actually how the pattern is, right? Yeah, this is how the pattern is. So it has these transparent open lines on top, and so when I added the black stuff, yeah, it now gives it more stuff. So I just added my hue and saturation here just to tone it down a bit so it won't be too bright and also distracting the main focus of the design, which is something you should always have in mind whenever you're creating your backgrounds. Try to make sure that it's not distracting the viewers from the major focus of the design, except you want the background to be the focus, which in this case that is not the focus. Okay, so the next thing I added was this plastic wrap. Yeah, so I think I used the divide option. This is it in its normal state. Yeah, plastic wrap, and then I used the divide to blend it with the background. And then the next thing I did here, I know I duplicated this text for something, so I just before I added that text, right, I had to add like my image. If you want to know how to achieve this, check the countdown poster breakdown video in the playlist. It's the second video, I think the 8 days to go countdown poster breakdown video. So check it out. You will see how to achieve this effect. So I don't want to waste much of your time, so we could just get straight to it. Increase my brightness a little bit. And then I now added the image. This is the image, just made some few adjustments here and there. So you could see that this stuff was actually gotten from this, right? So just added that, and then I now added the jewel behind because of the concept I'm trying to make. And then the next thing I now did was to add my gradient fill, and then I now included a plastic wrap again. This time I had to like power clip, force of habit, CorelDRAW user. I had to clip mask the plastic wrap into the gradient. So if I remove it, just press my Alt key. If I remove it, see it will affect the face and on. So I didn't want that. So this was what I wanted to achieve, to power clip or clip mask this into it. So that's why you could see it's just on the gradient section. And the next thing I now did was to add Joe again. Mind you, the name of this font, if you want to check it out, the name of this font is Hansen. So check it out on thatfont.com to download. And then the next thing I did was to add my date. So this is a date. Next thing was to add a shape here. So this shape, what I did on this area here was to add like a blend mode. I didn't leave it on its normal section, so I added a blend mode to it. So this is it in its normal state when just did this. So this is it, right? Let me disable this guy. Added a layer mask to it. So yeah, this is how it is. And then I had to enable my layer mask. Enabled my layer mask, and then I used the color bond option, reduce the opacity to 44%. So that was how I was able to achieve that. And then the next thing I added was like my write-up. So yeah, this time the write-up was a little bit bigger. And yeah, I wanted it to be red, right? So normally, I'm sure if you've seen my previous videos, you would normally not see the write-up very visible to be red, right? Simply because I do not want it to be red. I just use it as a pattern. So in this scenario, it wasn't just playing the role of a pattern. It was actually like a write-up that was meant to be read. So that's why you could see it very visible there. I know some places were affected because of the patterns and all that, but you could see some things, right? So that was very intentional. Next thing I now added was my second picture. So yeah, that picture was now, yeah, just added it there. And then I added a shadow to it. Yeah, added my shadows to it. If you also want to know how to include or add shadows to your images, you could also check my previous videos where I also did that. All right, so the next thing I did was to add my happy birthday text. I added a stroke to it. The name of this font is Orthographia, so you could check it out on thatfont.com, or you could just search on Google to download the font. I added like a stroke effect, a double stroke effect to this, because leaving it like this would be very, very invisible, right? You can barely see the happy birthday written on it. So that was why I added the stroke, so it could be visible. So how you could achieve this is to just right click on the layer and you go to your blending options, right? Go to your blending options, you just move it. So this is where it is, right? The stroke, added this. And for you to actually see the changes that you are making, always make sure that you turn this preview section on, so that whatever change you are making on that text, you would also see it on the design. So I'm moving this a bit so you guys could see. Let me see if there's a way to reduce this. I don't think there is a way to reduce it, but I just want to show you guys what I did. So I'm on the second stroke, right? I chose the red color, and then outside position is outside. So this is 12, right? So if I increase it more, the more I increase it, you see how it's increasing. Yeah, so this is for the outside effect. So let's take it back to 12. Take it back to 12. And then for the white stroke, I used center. If I increase it, you could see how it's even overshadowing the outside stroke. So yeah, I didn't want it to. I also wanted the white text to be a bit visible and all. So that's how I did that. So when you just finish, you just click OK. So I'm going to cancel this, so don't change the entire thing. So that was how I was able to do that. The next thing I added was a microphone. So given that my kid brother is a rapper, yeah, he raps, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, what element can I use on this design to, represent him or to define who he is? Or yeah, I was thinking, oh, okay, since he raps, right? He raps very well. I said, okay, a microphone will definitely do the job. So added a microphone, added a Gaussian blur effect. If I remove this Gaussian blur effect, this is how the microphone is. Yeah, so I just did that, added a Gaussian blur effect to it. If you want to know how to do Gaussian blur, you just come to filter here, go to blur, see Gaussian blur, you just add it, and then when you click on it, you can do anything, any kind of blur effect. Try not to make it too too much. Yes, just something very subtle, because I knew I was also going to add some things here, like a right up here. So that's why I had to add the Gaussian blur effect to the microphone, and then I duplicated the microphone again and positioned it at this level just to create some sort of balance at both ends. Yeah, then I did grouped it in one folder. The next thing I now did was to add my script. So usually, previously in my previous birthday designs last year, I'm still inspired by Nana, I would always add a script font kind of stuff with a zigzag dash, just like a handwritten kind of thing. Love you, bro. So that's what I added. The name of this font is Amsterdam. Very interesting. Amsterdam. Yeah, so check out the font still on that font, or you could just Google it. And then I added this zigzag effect. I created this zigzag actually. I created it with CorelDRAW, and I just exported it here as an SVG file. Yeah, so that was how I was able to do that. And so basically that was everything. And then the last thing I did was to add my logo, which is at this position here, very subtle. And then I added a pattern to this, more like a finishing touch to it. And so you could see this kind of white dot kind of pattern also. If I disable this guy, and let's put this guy well. If I disable this guy and use normal and put this on 100%, this is how the pattern is, right? So I didn't want it to be like this. I wanted something visible but still subtle, right? Not too distracting. So I went for the divide option, and then I used 31%, and then I also had to clean up some areas on the face, right? So that's why I added my layer mask. If you want to add a layer mask, you just, on that selected layer, you come here, click on layer mask, and then it will be added, and you use your brush tool to brush it out. So use your brush tool to brush it out. So let me delete this guy, delete, and let me also activate this guy. Okay, it's activated already. So that was how I was able to achieve it, and then I just clicked, added like a little finishing touches on camera raw, and voila. So the next thing I now did again was to like create another design, not something entirely different, but like change of position. So that was where I now did this. So something, still having some things, but just changing the positions of the images. So you could see where I brought this one to this position, I brought this to this position, but every other thing is still the same, right? Okay, then the script font, I carried it here. So let me just show you guys. That's very simple stuff. So still the same thing. I just made some little changes. So I'm gonna disable these guys. I'm gonna do this as quickly as possible, so we won't spend so much time here. All right, so same thing, some things I'm not going to explain again because I've already said it on the first artboard, which you already know how to achieve those elements. Same thing, added my background, added my pattern, added my plastic wrap, added this, the text, and then this time the image, I made the image a little bit bigger, placed it at the center, added a rectangle to cover this area and like one part of his eyes. That was like for a style. Then this image, which is this one, is what I did here. I just rotated it and positioned it in that area. Then you could see how I added the image. I had to convert the image to black and white. Did some little changes on with the brightness and contrast. If you want to add brightness and contrast to your image, you could just go to adjustments here. You see here brightness and contrast, and then you can make any change. Whenever you are done making that change, mind you, if I remove the power clip, whatever it is that I'm doing is going to affect the entire design. You could see that when I added that brightness and contrast, you see how it affected the entire design, but I didn't want that. I just wanted it for this image. So you hold your option, your alt key, and you see this arrow coming up here, and you just clip mask, and you can now see that this effect is only on the image and not on the entire design. So that was how I was able to do that. Then the next thing I did, still my right up front here, and then I added my gradient effect, added the same plastic wrap on the gradient effect, added my text here again, added a little bit, added like a drop shadow to this. Same place to achieve drop shadow effect, you right click and you go to your blending options. So in blending options, there are so many things there, right? Which I'm sure you guys have already seen, like the stroke and all that. So this is my drop shadow. This is my drop shadow. So you just play around with the stuffs here, play around with it, the opacity, how you want it to be very visible, the positioning of your shadow. So you could see that the shadow is changing, then also the distance, how you want it. Just play around with it, and depending on what you want to achieve, you could do that with that. Okay, so I did that, and then I also added my happy birthday again. This time I made it straight. Okay, next thing I added was the date. So I added my date. Next thing I now added was the mics, still in the same positions. Added this here. Till I brought this down a little bit. Okay, and then I added my script font. Same script font, didn't change it, but this time didn't put it here. I put it at this position here, just trying to do something different. Yeah, and then I added my logo, still at the same position here, and then I added that pattern to it. So I didn't mention it in the previous artboard. I got this pattern. I've forgotten the name of this pattern though, but PNG egg. This is actually why I got it. So maybe search for like dotted patterns or some kind of stuff. And then the last thing I now did was my like finishing effect. which is the camera raw. Just one or two things, not too much. Just added it. That's it. So yeah, we have come to the end of this video. Let me know what you think about this video, if this was very useful to you, in the comment section below. And do not also forget to like, don't forget to also share the video, and also subscribe and turn on post notifications for future videos. If there are other things you would also want me to talk about in our next tutorials or in the next poster breakdown tutorial, feel free to drop it in the comments below. All right, guys, peace.